One of the biggest questions I get when people get into real estate investing is, should I get licensed? Today, we're gonna answer the question on whether or not it makes sense to become a realtor if your goal is to get into real estate investing. If you're new to my channel, my name's Ryan Pineda. I'm a real estate investor here in Las Vegas. I've done hundreds of flips. I've bought hundreds of rentals. I also own multiple businesses that are doing millions a year in profit. So if you wanna learn more about how my businesses can help you, go to ryanpineda.com after this video. Now, one of those businesses that I own is called Forever Home Realty. We are a real estate brokerage here in Las Vegas with over 150 realtors. Now, the thing that makes my brokerage unique is that many of our agents are investment focused, meaning they don't necessarily have their license with the intent to go sell retail real estate. They have their license to amplify their ability to flip houses or buy rental properties. And if you're watching this video, my guess is you probably fall into that category. Now, we're gonna get into the pros and cons of whether getting a license makes sense or not, but before I do that, let me give you a brief background of my career as a realtor. I got started in real estate back in 2010 as a realtor, and at the time, it was way different than it is today. Properties were selling for $100,000 here in Vegas that are now worth $400,000. It was really difficult as a 21-year-old to even find buyers or sellers because everyone had just gotten wrecked from the recession. And even when I did sell a property, I still wasn't making much because the prices were so low. And so unsurprisingly, my career as a realtor did not go too well. And in fact, after a couple of years, I pretty much stopped doing it completely. It wasn't until 2015 when I started flipping houses that I regained my love for real estate. Being a realtor left such a bad taste in my mouth that I didn't want to even get into real estate until I learned I could flip houses. Fast forward to today, I actually gave up my license in 2018 and I haven't looked back since. And I'll actually explain why I gave it up here in a minute. Now, with that in mind, even though I have a somewhat biased point of view, I want to say getting a license can actually make a lot of sense for the right person. Here's some reasons why it actually can make sense. The first is the MLS. In order to get access to your local MLS, you've got to be a licensed realtor. Now notice how I said the word legally. So even though MLS access is extremely valuable as an investor, if that's the only reason you're trying to get licensed, it's probably not a good enough one. The second reason you might get licensed is to save on commissions. So there are multiple ways that you can make money through your commissions when you become a real estate investor. The first is on the purchase side. If you are buying properties off the MLS and you're making the offers yourself, then you can represent yourself in the transaction. And this was the only reason I kept my license for a long time after I started flipping houses. I got really good at finding deals off the MLS, and I would go take that 3% commission and add it towards my profit. And by doing that, there were some flips that made sense because I had the commission on top of that. So if you're actively looking for deals on the MLS and you want to use that commission to pad your profits, I think getting a license makes complete sense. But it will also help you save commissions on the sell side when you are flipping houses. So instead of paying somebody 2 or 3% to list your home, you can now do it instead and save commissions there. So if you think about a whole MLS transaction from start to finish, if you got 3% on the buy side and you save 3% on the sell side, that translates into a lot of money on just one deal. Now, once again, with saving commissions, there are a number of ways to go around this where you don't need a license. For instance, if you have a buyer's agent like I do, and they're willing to credit some of that commission towards the flip purchase, then I personally wouldn't need a license. And you might be asking, Ryan, why would they credit their commission then? Well, for one, we are training them on how to find these deals. And for two, they know that they're gonna get a massive amount of volume by helping us find these deals. It's not just a one and done transaction. If they can find me 4 deals a month, even if they're only making half the commission, it's a lot of money. But on the other side, when I go to list the flip, I'm not paying 3% anymore. I pay a flat fee because once again, we do this in volume. And most people who flip in volume do the same thing. They're either paying a flat fee or a 1% commission, and I've even seen some flippers just put someone on salary. If you put a listing agent on salary who just managed everything and they didn't have any type of commission, you'd probably save a lot of money, but that's only if you had enough volume to support that. My point is, saving on commissions can make sense, but there are other ways around it, just like the MLS. But the one thing where I really feel that becoming an agent makes sense is if you are truly going to use it as another stream of income. And so if you have a big network of people and you want to go represent them in buying or selling their home, I think it makes complete sense to go out and get licensed. And the benefits of this stream of income versus, say, house flipping is it doesn't require a lot of capital from you, and it doesn't require very much risk. You see, every time I go to flip a house, there is a big risk that I could potentially lose money, go over budget, or any other type of risk that comes with it. Also, I've got to raise a lot of money to buy that house, whether it's my own money or someone else's. But when I go represent somebody as a realtor, there is very little cost or risk. My only cost is driving them around town and putting in offers. And my biggest risk is that I get sued from the transaction at some point, but that is pretty rare if you're doing things the right way. And so that is the number one question I ask people when they're thinking about getting licensed is, do you actually think you're going to represent other people, not just yourself? And if the answer is yes, then I would definitely encourage you to get a license. But let's talk about some of the negatives of being a realtor. The first one is you've got all the upfront cost and the schooling. So in order to get licensed, you've got to pay for the school, you've got to pay for the test, you've got to pay for the license itself, then you got to pay to join the realtors, and you got to pay for a bunch of other stuff that comes with your brokerage and any other cost related to becoming a realtor. But then you've also got to go to school and pass the test. That takes a lot of time. So you got to ask yourself if it's worth your time to do that initially. Another negative with becoming a realtor is the added liability as an investor. And this is the reason that I gave up my license. When you go to flip a property as a licensed realtor, even if you are not the one representing yourself, you are still held to this realtor standard and the licensee standard of your state. And so being held to this higher standard puts a bigger target on your back. Case in point, when I was licensed, I started to get some complaints when I started doing heavy volume with flips. And many of the complaints were frivolous or really small, but even the small ones you still have to respond to, and a lot of times go to a mediation or do anything that they want you to do for the response. Well, I just started to realize a lot of these complaints were not worth my time, and the only reason they were able to make the complaints was because I was licensed. And as I said before, it wasn't like it was happening a lot. I would say less than 1 or 2% of our transactions ended in a complaint. But it just started to annoy me because I wasn't even using my license for anything. I wasn't representing buyers or sellers, and I wasn't even representing myself on transactions anymore, so I had no reason to have a license. And it ended up just becoming a negative for me, and I gave my license back in 2018. And guess what? Since then, I've never had another complaint. So I think it was a good choice on my part to give it up. But I will say, I would have put up with the complaints if I was actually utilizing it and making money as a realtor. If I had a bunch of clients and I was making multiple six figures, it was a headache I would have dealt with. But I literally was doing nothing with my license, and so it made no sense for me to continue keeping it. But the other negative that I should bring up about having the license is the maintenance. Just like you had all the upfront cost and all the upfront schooling with getting licensed, you also have to maintain it and go back to school and pay all these fees every year. For me, going to school was just not worth my time. I've got too many other endeavors going on, and I don't have time to go sit in a classroom to learn about how to be a realtor. So with all of the pros and cons out there, does it actually make sense to become a licensed realtor if your focus is on investing? Well, as I said before, I think you can get around the MLS, so that should not be the only reason you get licensed. I think you can get around commissions, so that should not be the only reason you get licensed. So that pretty much leaves what I said in the beginning as the biggest determining factor. Are you going to use it to represent buyers and sellers other than yourself? If so, then I think you should get it. And if you don't plan to, then I think you probably shouldn't get it. Also, one more thing I'll add is many people who want to get into real estate investing always say, hey, I'm gonna start doing deals once I get my license. I'm just waiting to go through school, then I'm gonna find my first deal to wholesale, flip, or keep as a rental. That is also a very bad thing to do. And if you're using that as an excuse, I would just say all you're doing is procrastinating. So if you're trying to get into real estate investing, you can start today regardless of where you are. And also, as a shameless plug, if you want to learn about real estate investing, you can be coached directly by me if you go to futureflipper.com. From there, you can book a call with our team and figure out which of my programs is best for you. But anyways, I hope this video gave you value. If it did, please go hit that subscribe button so you can see more videos like this, and I'll catch you later. Peace.